Howdy! Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Scenes. I'm Mari, and this is a very special episode because this video will have a slightly more detailed and in-depth explanation of my creative processes on the Doctor Who Road minisode, The Animated Fiasco. I'll be also giving a few tips and tricks to the process, but don't take them to heart because I'm not a professional. Before we dive into the madness, I advise you to go watch the episode on Jack Reeves' channel, which will be linked in the description and in the card at the corner of the screen. The Animated Fiasco is about three actors, David Tennant, Christopher Eccleston, Matt Smith, all played by Jack Reeves of course, being transported to a 2D-like recreation of Doctor Who Road, and it's up to them to get back to normal. Now you might be a little confused. What the hell is Doctor Who Road? Or, who's Jack Reeves, Mari, you might say. Well, luckily for you, I had the great opportunity to interview the man himself. Welcome to the interview, everyone! I'm Mari, and we are interviewing the lovely Jack Reeves, who is the creator of Doctor Who Road and Doctor Who the Community Show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well indeed. How are you?
I'm great. It's 9 o'clock, well, 8:57 a.m., so it's very early.
Of course, time zones.
Yeah, isn't it fun? Alright, first question. Explain who you are, what your channel comprises of, / what content you make, and what Doctor Who Road is for newer viewers.
Well, I am Jack. For about a decade now, I've been making random Doctor Who-based YouTube videos, ranging from spoofs of scenes, as well as Doctor Who Road, which is this sort of what-if scenario where once a Doctor Who actor leaves the show, the BBC imprison them in this like locked off road prison type thing, and it's essentially a Doctor Who flavored sitcom, which is probably the most niche thing on the platform, and I take pride in that.
It's my favorite niche thing so far. I want to thank Jack for allowing me to even make something for Doctor Who Road, as it's one of my favorite niche internet series, as he puts it, and one of my favorite creators on the site. I've prolonged the intro a little too much, so let's just get into it. Now you might wonder why I started this madness in the first place. So I was in a bit of an art block. Doctor Who The Accidental Doctor, which is my side Doctor Who fan series that I'm currently working on, could not be worked on because school just started up. I could only work on smaller clips from different medias that I like, or just small memes that I made for either as inside jokes for my friends or just for the funny. I kind of sat in bed thinking of ideas about what to do, and then I had a thought about Doctor Who Road, which is the series by Jack Reeves. I eventually reanimated a bit from Sherlock's Revenge, and I enjoyed making the designs, and it seemed like everyone else enjoyed it too. After lying in bed and thinking of ideas again, I had an idea for a project. The idea was that the actors of Doctor Who Road had been transported to an animated realm and had to return to IRL before they were eventually corrupted by horrible Flipaclip files. This is foreshadowing for later. With the premise in mind, the next thing to do was get the approval of Sir Jack Reeves. I sent him an email with my idea, and he surprisingly said sure to the project. What was your initial reaction to asking, me asking to collaborate you? Just some random animator off the face of the planet just being like, hi, I like your stuff. Let me make some stuff for you.
Well, I mean, the initial thing is whenever I'm asked to do anything, it's usually voice acting, because of the the Tennant and Smith impressions, which is always lovely, but that's usually what I expect. It's this sort of run-of-the-mill, like, oh, I've got this Doctor Who special, and it's like, it's got the Daleks in it. I'm like, oh, wow,
I pulled a reverse card, and I was like, no, I make something for you.
Yeah, luckily, you made, I guess what is a proof of concept in hindsight with the animation of Sherlock's Revenge, that short clip, which I believe randomly popped up in my messages. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I recognized your name immediately. And then you mentioned the animation. And it didn't take me long to say yes. It was a very exciting prospect.
I went through a way different process than I usually do since there was another person on the project. I made a whole list of things to do, what to finish, and everything else. Mainly for organization purposes, but also as a good point of reference. I outlined what I wanted to happen, which I did in my TARDIS notebook. I turned the outline into a draft script, which had the basic ideas and dialogue for the story. It began with an IRL section, went to an animated portion, and then back to IRL. Once I got it approved by Jack, I finished up the script and made it a final, and then began storyboarding while he began doing the voice lines. For storyboarding, I spent a whole 3 to 5 days working on graph paper in the middle of my English and acting classes to work on them, as well as spending time at home to sketch. Once those were done, I began creating references for the characters, from their outfits to the colors of their scenes. All of the props, reference sheets, and backgrounds were all done in Procreate. Any highlights from this collaboration, if any at all? Like, first reaction to the first animatic.
Yes. Well, I mean, I did love just seeing... Actually, no, there is one. Because I specifically showed my family this, and I never told you this, I'll tell you this now. So, the establishing shot is of, you know, my old house, the old Doctor Who road, which was my family home.
I'll have you know, finding pictures... As much as I watched all of, like, Doctor Who Road, I could not find a single shot that didn't have a doctor in there.
Yeah, honestly.
Until later on.
I see that, because I've noticed recently that I don't do, like, establishing shots, or really any shots that don't involve a person, and it's not something I've ever paid attention to.
So I had to, like, look up pictures of England houses, like brick houses, to just get, like, what does it look like?
So when I got that first picture through of that house, of the establishing shot, despite the struggles, it looks exactly like my old house, or at least like it did, because it's had a couple of renovations since I moved out. And I showed my family. Everyone was, like my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. All of them were just really impressed. Like,
they're like, how did they get the house shot?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't an instant of like, yeah, that's a bit weird. They're just drawing my house. But at the same time, like, once they knew what it was, like, I explained the animation, they thought it was really, really cool. So you got the Reeves family seal of approval.
Yeah! At this point, I began moving all the rough storyboards to digital, beginning to clean them up for animatic form. All that was left was to get the voice recordings and edit them together. Huge tip. I will personally not be doing this again because it took me way longer than I should have to sync the audio and storyboards together. You should wait until you get your voice recordings edited together, then clean up your storyboards in animatic. In the middle of October, I received the uncut voice recordings from Jack.
I can help with that.
I don't know who that's supposed to be.
All right.
Oh, it's you. Okay.
Meaning I had to record my lines before editing the SFX and music. As you can hear now, my microphone is in the best quality. Alright, this is part 2 of trying to record this because the first one didn't work. And we're going to try to do it in one take because I don't like doing this. I tried recording the lines in a closet before settling on the much better option, my school resources. I'm in this media club in my school where microphones are practically everywhere, so I used one to record my lines. I even edited the recording on Adobe Premiere, since it was available. After uploading the voice recordings, I went home and added SFX and music to the recordings and sent them to Jack for approval, and he said they were great. Once the final recordings were done, it was time for the real fun to start. The animation. I split the animation into 6 solid parts, not counting the IRL bits, those are for Jack, and worked on each individually. For each section, I went in a pattern of rough animation which consisted of keyframes, eyes, lip sync, to final animation. Line art, colors, details, and objects. I did this 6 times for each section for 3 months. I did get into trouble with section 4 where I merged layers and the sketch layer dipped out on me, which was pretty frustrating. A reminder to back up your progress and projects so that you don't lose them. I spent most of my free time and winter break working on the animation. Not even winter ball and Christmas could distract me from my hard work. Fun fact, before I had even animated anything else, I animated the little Mari before the credits rolled. Isn't she adorable? After days of finishing up the last section, I completed it on December 30th, a day before New Year's Eve, and my deadline. And, surprisingly, Jack's birthday. Once I finished and celebrated, I sent it off to Capcut for some final edits such as subtitles for Eccleston, watermarks, and fixing some SFX. After editing was done, I exported the files and put them in Google Drive, completing the 3 months of work I had put so much passion and hard work into. All that was left was to wait for Jack to finish his parts. Any drawbacks during filming or behind the scenes? Because I know I had a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, you have a very difficult challenge with animation alone. I certainly can do any of that. But I think the main drawback with filming, or at least how I do it, is because I'm on my own, which was always sort of both my biggest strength and my biggest enemy, because the whole reason Doctor Who Road is a thing is because I don't know anyone that can be actors, or at least didn't at the time. And also, you sort of focus on yourself, and it's hard to collaborate because you have to...
It's easier to direct yourself because you know what you want.
Exactly. And then it's also like a time thing, you only have your own schedule to work on, you don't have to worry about anyone else's. But at the same time, being on my own now, because I have, I do green screen stuff and I have special lights, which are currently underneath that tenant coat over there. And so all that setup just to film myself telling stupid jokes, it's a very strange thing. And then there's also the editing, which I despise.
Oh, I freaking hate editing.
So yeah, I think the biggest drawback for filming, at least the way I do it, is the fact that I'm having to do every single bit. But at the same time, I wouldn't change that.
On the morning of January 4th, 2023, the video was officially announced by Jack on his Twitter. I got to see the whole video early, and it was incredible. The highlight of my week, if my friends had anything to say about it. Anything you would change, because there are things I would have changed, but now it's too late. It's set in stone. That you would change from either filming or you would have told me, oh, this, can you change this? Yada yada yada.
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing I would have changed, at least from my end, is filmed it before I got my haircut. Because Smith with short hair is wrong. It's disgraceful. It works for Eccleston.
I knew something was... I was watching the preview. I was like, what? Something's off. And then I kept looking. I was like, I can't find it. But I know something is off.
Yeah. Because I was going to film it earlier, but I had my beard over December. So I was just growing it to see how big it got. So at the same time, I couldn't film the animation, the live action stuff for the animation. Then obviously New Year rolls around, and a lot of people have their hair cut for New Year. New Year, new me, all that crap. And so I did the same. And then only then do I realize that I need to film the live action stuff for the animation. And I felt like such an idiot. I mean, it just about works for Tennant and Eccleston. You can get away with any hair length, but for Smith, it didn't look right.
By the time I'm recording this, it's January 21st, 2023. I'm going to post this after Jack posts the animation. So by the time this is out, you've probably seen the animation. While I worked on the animation, I made some extra things on the site, such as test animations, some memes, 2 posters, and the original video with the original soundtrack that I had in place before Jack edited the copyright-free version. Last one, because I didn't plan many. I didn't want to bother you with like 10,000 questions. Anything you'd like to say to my to my lovely solid 8K viewers? Don't mess it up now.
Oh gosh. Hi 8K viewers.
They all left during the taking out of my Minecraft YouTuber phase. After months and months of hard work, I'm so glad it's finished, and I'm happy with how it turned out. I got to practice and improve a ton of my animation skills. This whole collaboration thing with a YouTuber is completely new to me. I've had my hand in Ed's World Reanimated, but this was completely new. I got to work with a YouTuber who I considered way more experienced and more talented than me. It was an honor. I had no prior experience with contacting cool people or how to even approach the idea of animating or making work for them. I want to thank Jack again for letting me do this fun collaboration with him. It's such a great honor to just add something to one of my favorite internet series on the platform. I want to thank you all for your patience since I didn't post much for months and stayed relatively quiet about my projects as I usually do. I want to thank my friends who watched the earlier animatics of the episode and gave me feedback and even showed up in the credits. With all that, I'll close off the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. How do I end this?